Hello, I'm Lenny Pinna, and I'm the editor of this newly published book, A Face from Uranus, Correspondence between Ted Burr and Henry Bellamy, 1943 to 1945. Welcome to Series 2, about Henry and Ted. I'm going to begin with Henry, and I'm going to point out that this is Henry Bellamy right here, around age 60. He was the famous author of the novel King's Row, and he was living at the Ansonia Hotel in New York City when Ted wrote to him. In Series 1, Ted wrote a very long letter about his life story all the way up to the point where he wrote to Henry. We now begin with Henry's response and the beginning of what we might call mentoring. September 30th, 1943. My dear Ted Burr, I was moved by your letter, and I feel that perhaps I have a good deal to say to you. I am sure that much of it has to be said gradually, as I know you better. As I told you, I am not a psychiatrist. I only know such psychological matters as long reading in these subjects furnishes to anyone. I shan't pretend to understand everything about you, although I may say that it does not seem strange to me. Let's begin on a few assumptions. First off, please don't think of yourself as a case. Let's try to not think of yourself as abnormal. So far as being different is concerned, we may say that each of us is unique. You are clearly different in one respect, that somewhere in the deeps of your psychological and perhaps physical makeup, you are not wholly masculine. But since you aren't a woman, you can't be wholly feminine. There's nothing reprehensible in being feminine. Most fine men have a fine strain of feminine sensitiveness and intuition. Being really sissy is something else. I don't know how completely frank you have been with me, or how frank you can be. Since you aren't a practicing homosexual, those problems are not in your constellation of difficulties. In fact, a lot of your difficulties seems to just be repression. I doubt that the relationships you mentioned were injurious, but repression isn't necessarily injurious either. It is probable that civilization has inched forward that way. I do think you need a sympathetic hearing. I shall be glad if you wish to use me that way. I don't take the attitude that you are a pathological case, or that I stand in a doctor's place, and that you are a subject for cure. You are merely unhappy, and that unhappiness stands in the way of accomplishment and realization of your talents. I am sure what you need above all else is a sense of accomplishment. Now let's see if there isn't some way of going about that. There is certainly in your nature many elements that make difficulties for you and make your own way harder. For a moment, be patient while I be a bit brutal. You wish you were a woman. Somewhere there are reasons for this for which you are not responsible. But you are not a woman. But you are insisting that the world, which is organized the way it is, whether we like it or not, must permit you to dress as you like and look as you prefer. And at the same time, you are demanding that the world should not consider you conspicuous or even take notice. And yet you are not using makeup and so forth for yourself alone. You are on this count, and on this one point, not very logical. The story to be continued.